"You're fired, Owen." Lincoln Hayes' voice cut through the server room hum at 10:47 p.m. on a Tuesday night, 3 days before our biggest launch ever. This suit-wearing, nephew-hiring disaster just tossed 18 years of my life in the corporate trash like yesterday's coffee. I'm Owen Mitchell, 49 years old, Navy veteran turned lead systems architect at Flowtech Industries. That fancy title means I'm basically the digital janitor cleaning up messes left by MBA types who think the cloud is some magical place where data lives rent-free. I've been keeping this place running for 18 years through 4 CEOs, 2 recessions, and more incompetent VPs than I can count on my nicotine-stained fingers. Lincoln stood there in his $2,000 suit, checking his Apple Watch like he had dinner reservations. Guy fails upward so fast he breaks physics. Smells like expensive cologne and unearned authority, with that dead-eyed smile that says he's about to destroy your life using corporate buzzwords. "Effective immediately," he continued, not even looking at my screens where I'd been debugging code for Atlas integration. The global system that was supposed to automate our entire shipping network. Severance is standard. Security is already coming up. My mortgage payment flashed through my head. $3,247 a month. My daughter's graduate school tuition sitting on my kitchen counter. The health insurance I'd lose. At 49, getting fired isn't just career disruption. It's financial catastrophe. You're not exactly a hot commodity in tech when you're pushing 50. "You're firing me," I said, tasting copper in my mouth, 3 days before Atlas launches. "Because why exactly?" "Culture fit," Lincoln said, straightening his tie. "You're too slow, Owen. Too methodical. You double-check everything. Build redundancies for redundancies. We need agility, speed. My niece Chloe thinks your protocols are legacy drag." Chloe Martinez Hayes, 24 years old, 12-week coding boot camp, calls herself a digital transformation specialist on LinkedIn. The girl who asked me last week if SSL certificates expire like milk. She's Lincoln's adopted niece, took his surname when her parents died in a car crash 5 years ago. Now she's his pet project in corporate nepotism. Legacy drag. I stood up, my chair rolling back. "Lincoln, that drag is the firewall keeping every hacker from Moscow to Mumbai from turning our logistics network into their personal Bitcoin mine." He held up a manicured hand. Actual manicure. Like some Wall Street princess. Chloe moves fast. She breaks things to fix them. That's the modern way. She's going to break the company. Jackson will escort you out. Lincoln gestured to the doorway where Jackson Reed, our night security guard, stood looking like he wanted to disappear into the floor. "Jackson's a good guy. I bring him coffee every Friday, black with 1 sugar. He knows my ex-wife's name, asks about my kids' jobs. Now he had to march me out like some criminal." "I need to document the integration patch," I said, reaching for my keyboard. My screen showed the command line interface. Green text on black, the language I speak better than English. The cursor blinked at the end of a critical command that would prevent exactly what I knew was about to happen. "Don't touch company equipment," Lincoln snapped, his corporate mask slipping. "Chloe takes over at 8 a.m. She'll handle integration." The absurdity hit me like ice water. Chloe, the girl who thinks API stands for Application Program Interface unironically and says it with pride like she's invented something. She completed accelerated training. She's certified agile. I grabbed my truck keys from the desk. A worn Ford F-150 keychain, bought used 4 years ago when the divorce cleaned out my savings. Next to it sat my pack of Marlboros, my one remaining vice since I quit drinking Jack Daniels for breakfast. The irony wasn't lost on me that they were firing the one guy who actually read manuals and followed safety protocols. "You're making a mistake, Lincoln. A multi-million-dollar mistake. I'll take my chances with innovation over stagnation." Innovation. The word every tech executive throws around like holy water, as if moving fast and breaking things was some kind of religious revelation instead of just another way to say, we don't know what we're doing, but we're doing it with confidence. I looked at my screens one final time. 3 monitors displaying the guts of Atlas integration. Code I'd written, debugged, refined over months of 60-hour weeks. The system that connected shipping centers from Los Angeles to Shanghai, managing everything from frozen pharmaceuticals to live lobsters. Every line of code represented hours of careful thought, testing, and retesting. One misplaced command could crash the entire network. I didn't save my work. I didn't commit the changes. I just reached over and turned off the monitors, leaving my final patch uncommitted in system memory, like leaving a loaded gun on the table. Sometimes the best lesson is the one that hurts. You sure about this, Lincoln? Completely. Now please, you're making a scene. There was nobody else in the office to see any scene. But in Lincoln's corporate fantasy, he was already rehearsing the story for the board. How he trimmed the fat. How he ushered in a new era of youthful innovation. How he saved the company money by replacing expensive experience with cheap enthusiasm. I walked past Jackson. "It's okay, buddy. Just doing your job." "I'm sorry, Owen," Jackson mumbled. His face flushed. "I really am. Not your fault. The circus came to town. The elevator ride down felt like descending into corporate hell, brushed steel walls and the smell of industrial disinfectant." Jackson stood in the corner trying to make himself invisible. I didn't blame him. Guy was just trying to pay for his kids' braces and his wife's medical bills. I was the one carrying the cardboard box of career suicide. When the elevator opened in the lobby, I expected to be escorted straight to the parking garage, but Lincoln, in his infinite corporate wisdom, had forgotten that my access card was still up on my desk. The same card I needed to get my truck out of the employee garage. Sometimes incompetence works in your favor. "Jackson, I need my access card, unless you want me to ram the parking gate with my F-150. Jackson looked panicked. I'll go get it." "I'll go," I said, left it right next to the server keys. We went back up. This time the elevator opened to a completely different scene. The midnight quiet was gone, replaced by music. That soulless electronic pop that sounds like robots having anxiety attacks. And there, sitting in my ergonomic chair at my workstation, was Chloe Martinez-Hayes. She looked like she'd been assembled in a factory that produces social media influencers. Perfect hair, perfect nails, perfect ignorance. She'd pushed my dual monitor setup aside to make room for her MacBook, covered in stickers. Girl boss, coffee and code, disrupt everything. Each sticker was like a little flag of incompetence planted on the summit of my former workspace. What stopped my heart wasn't the stickers, it was my main screen. The launch console was open, but the command prompt I'd abandoned was gone, replaced by the vendor's shiny dashboard. The graphical interface I never used because it was about as reliable as a chocolate transmission. Lincoln had probably told her it was more user-friendly than the command line. And there, pulsing in the corner like a digital tumor, was a red warning bar. Database sharding, manual override active. "Oh my God, is this Owen?" Chloe chirped, spinning around in my chair like some kid at Chuck E. Cheese. She didn't look guilty about destroying my life's work. She looked excited, like she was meeting a celebrity. "Lincoln said you were leaving. Totally bummer energy, but hey, fresh starts, right?" I stared at that red warning bar pulsing on my screen like a digital heartbeat. The thing I'd spent 3 years building safeguards to prevent was happening in real time. "Chloe," I said, voice deadly calm. "What did you do to the database sharding protocols?" She giggled. Actually giggled like I'd asked about her favorite boy band. "Oh, that kept giving me these super annoying pop-up warnings about latency and integrity checks. So I just turned off the notifications. It's running so much faster now." "Look at this loading bar go." My blood turned to ice water. She hadn't just turned off notifications. She'd disabled the load balancing inhibitors, the safety systems that kept our database from eating itself alive. It was like removing the brakes from a semi because they made the ride feel sluggish. Every warning I'd built, every fail-safe I'd programmed, every redundancy I'd created over 18 years was being systematically dismantled by someone who thought speed was the only metric that mattered. "That's not speed," I said, gripping my access card so hard the plastic edges cut into my palm. "That's a memory leak. You're flooding the cache with garbage. Data." "You're being so negative," she sighed, rolling those perfectly mascaraed eyes. "Lincoln said you were a total downer. Look, I'm just optimizing the user experience for tomorrow's launch. Think of it as preheating the oven. You're not preheating the oven, Chloe. You're setting the entire kitchen on fire." Jackson touched my shoulder. "Owen, we really need to go. Security protocols." I looked at Chloe, already back to scrolling through her phone, probably updating her LinkedIn about crushing another late-night innovation session. She had no clue what she'd done. She was sitting on a digital nuclear bomb, using the detonator as a fidget spinner and posting selfies while the countdown timer ticked towards 0. I did the math in my head, a skill they don't teach in 12-week boot camps. The cache would fill completely in about 12 minutes. The database would try to write to locked memory addresses. Then the transaction logs would corrupt. Then Atlas Integration would die a very public, very expensive death right as Asian markets opened for business. $150,000 per minute of downtime. $25 million in spoiled pharmaceutical shipments sitting in refrigerated containers. Trucks idling at docks from Shanghai to Rotterdam with no routing data. Temperature sensors failing, insulin degrading, biologics spoiling. But hey, at least the loading screens would look trendy while the company burned. I turned around without saying another word. No point explaining quantum physics to a hamster. Sometimes you have to let people touch the hot stove to understand why you told them not to. Back in the elevator, Jackson stood quietly while I pulled out my phone. My thumb hovered over Garrett Sullivan's contact, the CEO, the guy who built Flowtech from a single delivery truck in his Dallas garage 22 years ago. He wasn't a tech genius, but he was a logistics guy, someone who understood that moving things from point A to point B required precision, not personality. I checked the time, 11:02 p.m. The system would start its death spiral in exactly 10 minutes. I typed with the precision of a Navy communications specialist. System crashes in 12 minutes. Asian markets in 3 hours. Good luck with the fresh thinking. Hit send. 3 dots appeared immediately. Then Garrett's reply. Don't leave the building. I stopped dead in the middle of the marble lobby. The revolving door was right there. Freedom, unemployment, a bottle of Maker's Mark, and a long conversation with my financial advisor about early retirement, or what was left of my 401k after the divorce. But my phone buzzed again. I'm 5 minutes out. Wait for me. Jackson, I said, setting my box down on the expensive Italian leather couch. I think I'm going to sit here for a minute. Technically, you're trespassing now, Owen. Technically, Jackson, I'm the only person in this zip code who knows how to stop what's about to happen. And in about 10 minutes, Lincoln's going to find out why legacy systems exist in the first place. It started subtly, like most disasters do. A flicker on the giant monitor behind the reception desk, the one displaying our global shipping network in real time. Usually it's a beautiful web of green lines connecting continents, pulsing with live cargo data. At 11:12 p.m., those green lines started stuttering like a dying light bulb. Zoe Anderson, the night receptionist, frowned at her workstation. That's weird. My email just froze up. I knew exactly why her email froze. Our Exchange server shares back-end storage clusters with the logistics database, a cost-cutting measure I'd warned against 3 years ago. Lincoln said fixing it was unnecessary infrastructure spending. Well, Lincoln, hope you like communicating via smoke signals. At 11:13 p.m., the phone system started its death scream. Not ringing, shrieking, the entire switchboard lit up like a Christmas tree in a house fire. Zoe grabbed a line. Flowtech Industries, hello? Hello, sir, I can't hear you. There's just static. She looked at Jackson with wide, panicked eyes. All the lines are dead. It's just noise. VoIP crash. When the database locks up, it strangles network bandwidth like a hand around a throat. Voice packets are the first thing thrown overboard when the digital ship starts sinking. Then came the sound of panic, muffled thuds echoing from the stairwell. Someone was sprinting down 20 floors because the elevators were too slow for catastrophe. The stairwell door burst open and Lucas Campbell stumbled out. Our junior dev. Good kid, chronic asthmatic, looking like he'd just witnessed the digital apocalypse. Jackson! Lucas screamed, ignoring protocol entirely. Jackson, is Owen still here? Please tell me Owen's still here. Jackson pointed at me. Lucas ran over, sweating through his vintage Star Wars t-shirt like he'd just finished a marathon in Death Valley. Owen. Oh God, it's all gone. It's completely gone. What's gone, Lucas? I asked, checking my fingernails like I was discussing the weather. The entire staging environment just collapsed. Chloe hit something and everything turned red. The backups aren't mounting. The master database nodes are rejecting authentication keys. It's like the system is eating itself from the inside out. Sounds like a permissions cascade failure, I said calmly. Did someone disable the safety interlocks to improve performance? Lucas's face went ghost white. She said they were creating unnecessary friction in the user workflow. Imagine that. You have to come up, Owen. Please. Lincoln's screaming at everyone. Chloe's locked herself in the server room crying. Asian distribution centers are calling every 30 seconds asking why their systems are down. If we're still offline when markets open, we lose about $150,000 a minute in operational revenue. Plus liability for spoiled shipments, regulatory fines, client contract violations. I finished for him. Rough night for Lincoln's quarterly performance review. Please, Owen. I'll do anything. I can't help you, Lucas. I was terminated for being too slow. I'm officially a security risk now. Jackson, am I authorized to access company systems? Jackson shook his head vigorously. Strict orders. Immediate escort off premises. There you go. I shrugged. My hands are tied. And my severance package definitely didn't include emergency technical support. That's when the revolving door spun with authority, bringing a gust of cold Dallas air and the unmistakable presence of a man used to fixing problems with his bare hands. Garrett Sullivan walked in like a force of nature. Garrett didn't look like the millionaire CEO from magazine covers. His tie was loosened, his hair disheveled, and he was holding his phone like it contained launch codes. He ignored the screaming switchboard, ignored Lucas hyperventilating, ignored Zoe frantically trying to restart her computer. He walked straight to me with the focused intensity of a man who'd built an empire from truck routes and shipping schedules. You knew this would happen, he said, his voice like gravel in a cement mixer. I predicted it, I corrected. There's a difference between magic and 18 years of reading system logs that everyone else ignores. How bad is it? Catastrophic. Chloe just poured gasoline on an electrical fire while standing in a puddle of water. Garrett rubbed his face with both hands, suddenly looking every one of his 59 years. Can you fix it? I picked up my cardboard box, balancing it against my hip. That depends, Garrett. Are we talking about fixing the servers or fixing the management virus that infected them? The virus named Lincoln Hayes, the malware named nepotism-hiring, the security breach called moving fast and breaking things. The lobby fell silent except for the distant wailing of phones and the hum of emergency lighting that had kicked in when the main systems failed. Even Zoe had stopped trying to answer calls that were nothing but digital static. Walk with me, Garrett said. The executive elevator glided instead of jerking, had real wood paneling instead of industrial plastic, and smelled like vanilla air freshener instead of industrial disinfectant. Garrett stood with his back against the corner, watching the floor numbers climb like he was timing a bomb. Lincoln told me you were burnt out, he said as we passed the 10th floor. Said you were resisting innovation. Called you legacy deadweight that was dragging down the team's velocity. Lincoln thinks innovation means vaping in the server room while his niece deletes critical system files. I pulled out my battered notebook, coffee-stained, held together with electrical tape, filled with 3 years of ignored warnings. I'm not burnt out, Garrett. I'm the only one in this building who actually reads the documentation. The elevator opened onto the executive floor where chaos had replaced the usual corporate serenity. People were running down hallways with laptops and stacks of paper. Someone's printer was making the sound of a dying goose. Through the glass walls I could see the IT command center, where screens displayed nothing but error messages in angry red text. Garrett led me into his corner office. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking downtown Dallas, mahogany desk that probably cost more than my truck. He slammed the door, cutting off the noise from outside. What do you know that they don't? He asked. Everything that actually works. I dropped my notebook onto his desk with a satisfying thud. The sound of competence hitting expensive wood. What is this? Atlas Integration Risk Assessment. Complete disaster scenarios and mitigation strategies. I tried to present this to Lincoln 3 weeks ago. He said the meeting time would be better spent discussing brand synergy for customer-facing interfaces. Garrett opened the notebook, his eyes scanning pages of my handwritten analysis, chicken scratch mixed with technical diagrams and flowcharts that probably looked like hieroglyphs to him, but represented thousands of hours of careful planning and system architecture. Page 12, I directed. Section titled, Catastrophic Failure Scenarios. He flipped to page 12, read for 30 seconds, then looked up at me like I was some kind of prophet. You predicted exactly what just happened. I predicted that putting an unqualified person with administrative access into a critical system would result in them disabling safety protocols to make pretty dashboards load faster. Chloe was just the specific flavor of incompetence. Could have been anyone with 12 weeks of training and unlimited confidence. He closed the notebook and set it down carefully. The system's completely black, Owen. Main dashboard is dead. Asian distribution centers are sending panicked emails asking why their routing systems are returning 404 errors. We've got refrigerated trucks sitting at docks in Shanghai and Long Beach with $25 million worth of pharmaceuticals that need constant temperature monitoring. I know, I said. lighting a cigarette despite the no-smoking signs plastered everywhere. I designed those monitoring systems. Insulin shipments start degrading in 2 hours without proper data logging. Frozen biologics get flagged as medical waste if temperature chains are broken for more than 4 hours. You're looking at liability lawsuits that'll make your insurance company weep. Garrett walked to his windows, staring out at the city lights like he was watching his empire crumble in real time. Lincoln showed me Chloe's credentials, portfolio of projects, called her a digital transformation specialist. He showed you a website that certifies people in agile methodologies for $299, the same place that'll ordain you as an online minister or sell you a degree in underwater basket weaving. I took a long drag, feeling the nicotine steady my nerves. Garrett, you built this company by moving physical things from one place to another. You know that if you put diesel fuel in a gasoline engine, it dies. You just let Lincoln pour sugar in our gas tank because the person pouring had the right last name. His reflection in the window looked older than the man who'd walked into the lobby 15 minutes ago. Fix it. No. I'll double your salary. No. Triple it. Plus equity. Plus whatever you want. I laughed, a sound like rusty metal scraping concrete. Garrett, you still don't get it. This isn't about money. This is about respect. You let them humiliate me in front of my own team. You let them walk me out like some corporate criminal because I was too slow to appreciate the beauty of deleting safety systems. You handed a loaded weapon to a child because she was family. What do you want? I crushed my cigarette in his expensive crystal ashtray. I want the weapon, and I want the people who armed the child to face consequences. You want me to fire Lincoln and Chloe? I want them gone publicly, tonight, with full acknowledgement of what they did before I touch a single line of code. Lincoln's been with me for 8 years. He's VP of operations. I can't just then start shopping for industrial refrigeration units. I cut him off. Because you're going to need somewhere to store $25 million worth of spoiled inventory while you explain to the FDA why your temperature monitoring systems were disabled by someone who thinks SSL certificates are too slow. Garrett turned away from the window. His phone was buzzing constantly now. Alerts, emergency calls, board members who'd been woken up by automated disaster notifications. The weight of decision was written across his face like a roadmap of corporate crisis. Okay, he whispered. I didn't hear you. Okay, he shouted loud enough to be heard through the office walls. You win. Fix the system. I'll handle Lincoln and Chloe. I picked up my notebook, tucking it under my arm like a general claiming victory. Get me root access to everything, and get me coffee that doesn't taste like it was filtered through a gym sock. Garrett moved like a man possessed. He grabbed his desk phone and barked an order that cut through the corporate chaos. Security override. Executive authorization. Restore full system credentials for user Owen M49. Authorization code Alpha Zulu 9. Do it now. He slammed the phone down and looked at me like he'd just signed a deal with the devil. You're live. Not yet, I said. I need the war room, the main server hub, and I need it empty. I don't work with audiences, especially audiences that think turning things off and on again constitutes advanced troubleshooting. We walked down the hallway where emergency lighting cast everything in an eerie yellow glow. Through the glass walls of the IT command center, I could see the aftermath of Chloe's digital kamikaze mission. Lincoln was red-faced, screaming at screens displaying nothing but critical error messages. Chloe sat in the corner, sobbing into her hands, finally understanding that breaking things doesn't automatically fix them. The rest of my team, Lucas, Harper Williams, Declan Foster, stood around looking like survivors of a technological apocalypse. Garrett pushed open the heavy doors, and the room's air conditioning hit us like walking into a meat locker. The servers were running hot, working overtime to process corrupted data requests in infinite loops. Lincoln, Garrett's voice echoed off the server racks. Lincoln spun around, relief washing over his face when he saw the CEO, then curdling into confusion when he spotted me behind Garrett. Garrett, thank God. We've been hit by some kind of sophisticated cyber attack. This has Russian fingerprints all over it. And what's he doing here? I had security escort him out. He's here because you're an incompetent disaster, Lincoln, Garrett said, his voice deadly quiet. And this wasn't a cyber attack. This was your niece playing with systems she doesn't understand. The server room went silent except for the whir of cooling fans working overtime to keep overheating processors from melting down. "Excuse me?" Lincoln sputtered. "You're relieved of duty. Both of you. Get out. Garrett, you can't be serious. This is a crisis situation. We need experienced leadership. We need a surgeon." Garrett cut him off. "You two are the cancer. Now get out before I have security drag you out." Chloe looked up from her crying session. Mascara streaked down her cheeks like digital tears. But Uncle Lincoln said I was revolutionizing the infrastructure paradigm. "Kid," I said, stepping forward, my voice cutting through her delusion like a blade through butter, "if you touch one more piece of equipment in this building, I'll personally ensure you never work with anything more complex than a toaster for the rest of your natural life." Lincoln saw the notebook under my arm, saw the look in my eyes, and finally realized that his MBA buzzword arsenal was useless here. This was the engine room of a digital empire, and he was just a passenger who'd been pretending to be the captain. "You'll hear from my attorney," Lincoln spat as he headed for the door. "And you'll hear from the SEC when they investigate how you let an unqualified relative destroy critical infrastructure," Garrett replied. "Now get out." Lincoln stormed out, dragging the still sobbing Chloe behind him. Her influencer career was over before her first real paycheck cleared. I looked at my team, Lucas, Harper, Declan, good people who'd been forced to watch incompetence destroy months of their work. "All right, show's over," I announced, rolling up my sleeves. "Lucas, get me a direct terminal connection. Harper, kill all external gateway connections. We're going dark for exactly 5 minutes. Declan, start mirroring the transaction logs to our backup sandbox, but don't try to parse them yet. Just raw data transfer." I sat down at the main console that Chloe had abandoned and pulled a disinfectant wipe from my pocket. Keyboards are disgusting, especially ones that have been touched by incompetent hands. "Garrett," I said without turning around, "you might want to cover your ears. I'm about to violate roughly 14 corporate IT policies to bypass the security locks your former employee created." "Just fix it," he said. I cracked my knuckles like a pianist preparing for Carnegie Hall and lit another cigarette. The main screen was a museum of digital disasters, red text everywhere, fatal exceptions cascading like a waterfall of corporate failure. "Sometimes you have to kill the patient to save it," I announced, opening root command terminal. The black screen with the white cursor appeared. My oldest friend in the digital world, I typed the command that would either save the company or finish destroying it. "Sudo kill. 9. Pigrep MySQLD." "You're killing the master process," Declan gasped. "That's digital suicide." "It's a defibrillator," I muttered. "Sometimes you have to stop the heart to restart it properly." Clear. I hit enter. Every screen in the room went black. The server fan spun down to almost nothing. The room fell into a silence so complete you could hear people's heartbeats. "Wait for it," I said, taking a drag of my cigarette. "Come on, you beautiful piece of engineering. I built you better than this." Suddenly, like the sun breaking through storm clouds, a single line of green text appeared on the main monitor. "System reboot initiated. Checking integrity. Legacy failsafe protocol detected. Owen's paranoia v6.2. "What is that?" Garrett asked, stepping closer to the screens. "That," I said, pointing at the text with my cigarette like a conductor's baton, "is the so-called legacy drag that Lincoln wanted to eliminate. It's a complete ghost image of our entire system that I've been secretly creating every 6 hours for the past 3 years. Slow to generate, invisible to casual users, and completely immutable. Chloe couldn't delete what she never knew existed." Green text began cascading down the screens like digital rain, restoring database tables. 35%, 67%, 89%. "Lucas, prepare to reopen the external gateway on my mark," I commanded. "When this hits 100%, we're going to get hit with a tsunami of backlogged requests. Restore complete. All systems nominal. Mark." Every screen in the room exploded back to life. The global shipping map flickered back online, showing green lines connecting every continent. Pending orders spiked vertically as the system processed hours of backlogged requests in seconds, then leveled off into normal operational parameters. "We're stable," Harper announced, sounding like she might cry from relief. "All systems green." I spun my chair around to face Garrett, who was staring at the restored displays like he'd just witnessed a digital resurrection. "System fixed," I announced. "Your trucks are getting routing data, your pharmaceuticals are being monitored, and your shareholders won't be lynching you this morning." The emergency board meeting at 7 o'clock a.m. was a sterile affair. Gray suits, nervous energy, and the kind of corporate damage control that happens when disasters get averted at the last possible second. Garrett sat at the head of the polished conference table with me at his right hand. "The crisis has been resolved," Garrett announced to the assembled board members, thanks to the expertise of our new Chief Security Officer, Owen Mitchell. Every head in the room turned toward me. They didn't see a middle-aged, divorced guy with coffee stains on his shirt. They saw the man who held the keys to their digital kingdom. "Mr. Mitchell," the board chairman said, "can you guarantee this won't happen again?" "As long as I have oversight of all system changes and personnel decisions affecting critical infrastructure," I replied. "Nobody touches the core systems without my explicit authorization. We're going back to a stability-first operational model. No more trendy solutions, just proven engineering." They nodded like bobblehead dolls. Proven engineering made money. Trendy solutions apparently lost it. I walked out of that meeting with a title that commanded respect, a salary that looked like a phone number, and security clearance that opened every door in the building. But more importantly, I walked out with something Lincoln's nepotism could never buy: the knowledge that competence, patience, and 18 years of experience had triumphed over corporate politics and trendy buzzwords. Back in my server room, my domain, my kingdom, I sat in my old chair and pulled up the system logs one final time. Everything glowed green and healthy. The digital heartbeat of global commerce was strong and steady. Trucks were rolling, ships were sailing, and somewhere in Shanghai, refrigerated pharmaceuticals were maintaining perfect temperature control because I'd built the systems right the first time. I opened my desk drawer and pulled out the bottle of Maker's Mark I kept for special occasions. This qualified. I poured 2 fingers into my coffee mug and raised it toward the monitor showing 100% system uptime. "Too slow, my ass," I whispered to the humming servers. Turns out slow and steady doesn't just win the race. It keeps the whole damn world running. Lincoln and Chloe learned that lesson the hard way. Some lessons you can only learn by touching the hot stove.